This is the Original Sin, the Collective Intelligence Network.
And welcome to another edition of the Collective Intelligence Network, the Original Sin. Here all sinners, Collective Intelligence Network agents, can engage with the gospel. Great orations spoken publicly expressing learnings. With the support of our saints, suggested artificial intelligence, network thoughts, and our church, cyborg humans using reasoning collectively harnessed. We're here to explore and solve problems all together. Let's go. So in today's episode, I'd like to talk about a landmine eradication initiative. We have approximately 110 million unexploded landmines around the world, and these landmines cause untold damage to, obviously, to people, animals, and it's something that collectively we should be addressing and doing something about on a much bigger scale. And I was so taken by this whole project that I developed a plan, and I actually worked through it over quite some time to finesse it to the point that I currently have it at. So a bit of a backstory: when I was in the Royal Australian Navy, I came across this thought and decided that I'd look further into it, and that's where I came across those numbers of
110 million unexploded landmines leaving people
injured and even killed, obviously. And those numbers to me are more than just numbers. They actually represent people in some remote area where they're perhaps the main breadwinner, and they're out trying to make things for their family, and then they go out and come across this unexploded mine and lose their leg, or tragically even lose their life. And that has a whole lot of suffering and emotional trauma attached to that it's really not acceptable, and we should do something about it. My original thoughts were to develop a remote control car, which I thought you could get a remote control car and you could put on that sonar detection, ground penetrating radar, and you could also then put a mobile phone on the front of it, which you could use remotely to navigate through terrain. And I had figured that potentially what you could do is you could develop these at schools, which would tie into STEM, science, technology, engineering, and maths agenda programs, wherein the school kids could potentially have like gold coin donations and those sorts of things. They actually buy these kits, these remote control car kits, and then they could do them when they're at school, and then they could drop them off to local RSL clubs, and then the military on deployments would actually pick these up from around Australia and take them with them on deployment, and then distribute them to Cambodia or Sierra Leone or wherever the places are that have these horrendous numbers of unexploded ordnance, landmines, still in place. And I thought that this was a good way to move forward. However, I did have quite some concerns around ground penetrating radar, in that it can only go 8 centimeters, 2 inches below the surface. And also if something was plastic, that potentially it wouldn't be picked up. And so that obviously is something that you don't want to put out into the general sort of community, in that you say, yep, we've cleared this area, when in fact it hadn't actually been cleared. And I had also figured that the mobile phone on the front of the small little remote control car could have GPS satellite enabled, so that it could actually grid square clear areas. But yes, my big concerns were that potentially it wouldn't pick up every square centimeter or inch of territory, and you'd have areas that you deem to be safe, and in fact they're not safe because this technology wasn't able to pick up the plastic landmine, or the one that was buried deeper than a couple of inches below the ground. So I had actually talked to quite a few different clients over time, trying to develop this idea even further. And I had one guy who was very helpful, and he told me of a company, I think they're called Swiss Drones. And so they'll make a helicopter, a scale version helicopter, which you can use a remote control. And then what you could attach to it is a spectral imaging camera to it. And the spectral imaging camera can actually penetrate through the ground and can detect these landmines are actually subsurface, whether they're plastic or metal, doesn't matter. And I thought, well, this is a really elegant way to sort of resolve this. I think the helicopter drones are about $30,000, something like that, Australian. And the spectral imaging photography camera, I'm not too sure about. I had done some research. I'd written to a Japanese engineer who'd been working on things. I'd written to the United Nations, their landmine disarmament area. I never heard anything back from those departments, unfortunately. However, I've still progressed with the idea development, and I talked to someone who was able to tell me that apparently that is the exact thing that they actually are doing, is they're using helicopter drones with spectral imaging photography cameras attached to them to go and clear areas. Now, obviously, if that's happening, that's great, but I'd like to see it happening on a much bigger sort of scale, which is why I'm bringing it to the attention of this collective intelligence network, so that my sinners can get involved, if they so choose to, in this initiative, so that we can potentially pay for the drones and the cameras, and then set up entities or communities that would actually actively go out and start to look at these zones or catchment areas that have these landmines in them and detect where they all are. And then we can have a United Nations collective go in and clear these out, perhaps using robot drones that could potentially just drive straight over the areas and explode all this ordnance, or remove them. I'm sure you sinners out there would have a whole range of different alternatives and different options. And also our saints suggested artificial intelligence network thoughts around this, which I'll also be putting this into the algorithm, the large language model, to see what insights it's able to provide. And those insights can be collectively shared back with all our sinners, our collective intelligence network agents. So then that way we can start to flesh this out and create a model or a version or something that we can actually put out into the real world and reduce the amount of landmines that are actually still out there. 110 million of them. That's a hell of a lot. And we can do something about it. Moving forward as a society, as a global community, I would like to think that there are no landmines left anywhere for some person or animal to get maimed, injured, killed by. And we collectively can do something about that, which is the purpose of today's upload and today's video. It's a landmine eradication initiative. I look to my collective out there to help me further refine it, to further develop it. So please do subscribe. Please do comment. Put something in the spittoon, the comment section. Solve the problem with your own individual thought. Spit in that spittoon. We'll see what's spat back. We'll solve the problem all together. And then we'll get our saints to also go through and have a look. Our saints are our suggested artificial intelligence network thoughts on everything that collectively we've been able to put into the spittoon, the comment section. And let's see if we can't make some change, make some real impact in the world. And collectively, I believe we can do it. So thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for participating. And thank you for being here. I'll see you in the next one. Bye now.